Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm honored to be here today, standing in front of so many bright minds, dreamers, doers, and change makers. Let me begin with something real. I wasn't born confident. I built it, one uncomfortable moment at a time. And if you're sitting here thinking, confidence isn't for me, or I don't look the part, let me tell you, confidence in 2025 isn't about being loud, perfect, or constantly fearless. It's about knowing your worth even when the world wants you to question it. So how do you build that kind of confidence? Let's start with this. 1. Own your story. In 2025, people are craving authenticity. Perfection is past. The world is no longer just watching what you do. They're listening to why you do it. I was once a teenager who felt awkward in her skin, who walked into a room and worried about how she looked, how she sounded, how she'd be judged. But the moment I stopped trying to be what everyone expected and started owning who I truly was, things changed. Your story is your superpower. Use it, flaunt it, own it. Confidence doesn't begin with applause or awards. It begins with acceptance. True confidence in 2025 comes from embracing who you are, where you come from, and what you've been through. In a world that constantly tries to fit people into molds and labels, there is nothing more powerful than someone who stands tall in their truth. Everyone has a story. And yet, many of us spend years trying to hide the parts that make us feel different, vulnerable, or imperfect. We try to conform, to blend in, to be accepted by a world that celebrates sameness far too often. But here's the truth. The parts of your story that you think are too messy, too painful, or too unconventional, those are often the very things that will set you apart and make people listen. Confidence is not about creating a polished version of yourself that feels safe to present to others. It's about having the courage to say, "This is who I am, this is what I've lived, and this is what I stand for." That kind of self-ownership radiates. It's magnetic. It gives others permission to be themselves too. When I first entered the public eye, there was pressure to be a certain way, to fit the mold of what a successful woman, a good actor, or even a beauty queen should look and sound like. But over time, I realized that hiding parts of myself to fit in was exhausting and inauthentic. It didn't feel right. I had to go back to my roots, my upbringing, my failures, the lessons I learned the hard way. Those are all chapters in my story. And they matter. They made me who I am. In 2025, the world doesn't need more curated versions of confidence. It needs bold honesty. It needs people who say, "I've been through things and I'm still here. I've stumbled, but I've grown." Owning your story doesn't mean glorifying struggle. It means refusing to be ashamed of the journey that shaped you. Confidence grows when you stop editing yourself for approval and start living fully as you. So take pride in your roots. Speak your truth. Be unapologetic about the path you've taken, because when you own your story, you take control of your narrative. And that, more than anything, is where confidence truly begins too. Stop waiting for permission. Ladies, gentlemen, non-binary friends, stop waiting for someone to tell you you're ready. In 2025, the world moves fast. Opportunities aren't handed out, they're claimed. Confidence isn't about having all the answers, it's about showing up anyway. It's walking into a room knowing you might fail, and doing it anyway, because that's when magic happens. One of the biggest roadblocks to confidence is the idea that we need to be granted permission by someone, something, or society before we take the next step. Whether it's going after a dream job, speaking up in a meeting, starting a business, or simply expressing an opinion, too many people wait for someone to say, "You're ready now." But in truth, that moment rarely comes. Confidence doesn't come from a green light. It comes from deciding to move forward even when everything inside you is uncertain. In 2025, the pace of the world is faster than ever. Technology is evolving, industries are shifting, and new opportunities are constantly emerging. And yet, so many talented, capable people hold themselves back, not because they lack the skill or the drive, but because they're waiting to feel fully qualified. They're waiting to be chosen, validated, or told they're good enough. But here's the truth. Nobody gets handed confidence. You claim it by stepping up before you feel completely ready. Growing up, and even early in my career, I often looked around and thought, do I belong in this room? I questioned if I was experienced enough, smart enough, even enough in general. But with time, I realized that almost everyone else was doing the same. The people who succeed aren't necessarily the ones with the most credentials. They're the ones who take risks, speak up, and show up with belief in their potential. The reality is, every great opportunity you'll ever have will come with a little fear. That's normal, that's growth. Confidence isn't about eliminating that fear, it's about showing up in spite of it. You don't need someone else to tell you that you have what it takes. You just need to decide that your voice matters, your ideas count, and your dreams are worth pursuing. The longer you wait for permission, the more you give away your power. And in 2025, when self-initiative is everything, you can't afford to stay silent or small. Start the project, ask for the raise, share your story, be bold even if your hands shake. Because every time you take action without waiting to be told you're allowed, you're building the kind of confidence that no one can take from you. You already have what you need. The only permission that truly matters is the one you give yourself. 3. Learn, unlearn, relearn. Confidence is not static. It evolves. In this age of AI, shifting careers, new narratives, we need to constantly update not just our skills, but our belief systems. Challenge your inner voice. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me grow or keeping me small? The most powerful people in the world aren't the loudest. They're the ones who are constantly becoming better versions of themselves. Confidence is often mistaken for knowing everything. But in today's fast-changing world, true confidence lies in being open to constant evolution. The most powerful people aren't the ones who cling to what they've always known. They're the ones who are willing to grow, shift, and adapt. In 2025, learning is no longer just something you do in school or at the start of your career. It's an ongoing process that demands you to stay curious, stay humble, and stay ready to challenge your own beliefs. We live in an era where information is at our fingertips, yet so many people feel overwhelmed or left behind. That's because knowledge today isn't just about collecting facts, it's about having the flexibility to update your perspective when new truths emerge. Sometimes what we were taught years ago, by family, society, or even ourselves, no longer serves the life we're trying to build now. That's where unlearning comes in. Unlearning isn't about rejecting your past. It's about examining the beliefs you've inherited or the habits you've formed and asking, does this still work for me? Maybe you grew up thinking you had to be quiet to be respected, or that failure was something to be ashamed of. Maybe you believed you had to follow a certain career path or look a certain way to be taken seriously. But confidence in 2025 demands that you let go of outdated stories, even if they once made you feel safe. Once you've made space by unlearning, you open yourself up to relearning, to adopting new ways of thinking, new skills, and a new relationship with yourself. You start to see that growth isn't weakness, it's strength. You realize that changing your mind doesn't make you flaky, it makes you aware. And most importantly, you come to understand that confidence is built when you choose progress over pride. One of the bravest things you can do is admit you were wrong or that you don't know something yet. That humility is not a lack of confidence, it's the foundation of it. Because when you give yourself permission to keep learning, you stop measuring your worth by how perfect you are and start valuing how committed you are to becoming better. In this rapidly evolving world, your ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn isn't just a skill, it's your edge. It's what will keep you grounded, growing, and confident no matter what the world throws your way. 4. Find your tribe. Confidence doesn't grow in isolation. You need people who challenge you, inspire you, and remind you of your greatness when you forget. I've had mentors, friends, and family who have believed in me even when I doubted myself. In 2025, connection is currency. Build relationships that lift you up and cut ties with what holds you back. Confidence doesn't grow in isolation. As much as self-belief is internal, the truth is we all need people. The kind of people who see you, support you, and challenge you to rise. In 2025, where digital connections are endless but genuine relationships are rare, finding your tribe, the people who truly have your back, is more important than ever. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we have to do everything alone. Society often romanticizes the self-made individual, but the reality is that nobody gets to the top by themselves. Behind every confident, successful person is a circle of people who reminded them who they were when they forgot. Your environment deeply affects your mindset. If you surround yourself with negativity, doubt, or competition disguised as friendship, your confidence will quietly erode. But if you build a tribe that lifts you, encourages your growth, and holds you accountable, you'll find yourself braver, stronger, and more resilient than ever. Not everyone in your life is meant to go where you're going. Sometimes the hardest part of building confidence is letting go of relationships that make you shrink. That doesn't mean you stop caring about people, but it does mean you start prioritizing your peace and progress. You deserve to be around people who speak your name with respect when you're not in the room, who don't get threatened by your success, and who are honest enough to tell you when you're playing small. The right tribe challenges you not to break you down, but to build you up. They inspire you by example. They remind you of your goals on the days you want to quit. They clap for you even when they're struggling with their own journey. And perhaps most importantly, they allow you to show up as your full, unfiltered self without judgment. In a world that often encourages comparison, finding your tribe is an act of rebellion. It says, I don't have to do this alone. And that's powerful. Because when you know you have people in your corner, your fears feel lighter, your dreams feel more possible, and your sense of self becomes rooted in love, not validation. So be intentional about who you let into your circle. Choose connection over competition. Choose real over perfect. Because with the right people beside you, confidence isn't just something you build. It's something you share, nurture, and multiply. 5. Redefine failure. You're going to mess up. That's non-negotiable. What is negotiable is how you see it. When I didn't win Miss India the first time, I could have quit, but I didn't. I tried again. And that second chance changed my life. Confidence is born in moments of failure. It's standing back up, dusting off your pride, and saying, I am still worthy. One of the most misunderstood ideas about confidence is that it comes from success. But the truth is, real confidence is built in the moments when things fall apart, when plans don't work out, when you mess up, fall short, or hear the word no. Failure isn't the opposite of confidence, it's the training ground for it. In 2025, when everything moves quickly and people are constantly showcasing their wins online, it's easy to feel like failure is something to hide. But confidence comes when you stop seeing failure as a personal flaw and start recognizing it as part of the process. The fear of failure can be paralyzing. It convinces you not to try, not to speak up, not to dream big. It whispers that one mistake defines you, that a single setback means you're not good enough, but failure is never final. It's feedback. It's a sign that you had the courage to take a step, even if it didn't go the way you hoped. Every successful person has failed multiple times. The difference is they didn't let that failure stop them. They used it, they learned from it, they grew through it. There have been moments in my own journey when I didn't get the part I wanted, when I was rejected, misunderstood, or underestimated, and yes, those moments hurt. But they also made me sharper, more determined, more grounded in who I am, because every time I got back up, I realized that my worth wasn't tied to any single outcome, and that realization is the foundation of lasting confidence. We often give failure too much power. We let it define our identity instead of viewing it as a necessary step on the path to becoming better. But when you choose to redefine failure, everything changes. It becomes a teacher, not a threat. It becomes a story you can own with pride, not something to bury in silence. In 2025, resilience is just as important as talent. And the most resilient people are the ones who are willing to fail, to feel the sting of disappointment and still move forward. Confidence isn't about having a perfect record. It's about showing up again and again, no matter how many times you've fallen, because every stumble is a sign that you dared, and every comeback is proof that you can rise. So let yourself fail, and then let yourself rise again and again. That's how confidence is truly born. So here's my final truth. Confidence isn't a destination. It's a choice, a decision you make every single day. In 2025, build confidence like you build muscle. Show up, be consistent, embrace discomfort, learn, grow, repeat, and when you walk into a room, whether it's a boardroom, a classroom, or a red carpet, walk in like you own it. Because, guess what? You do. Thank you.